Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Tuesday, January 6th of 2026. So what are we talking about today? I thought we'd talk about what can you as a homeowner, or if you're a shop, what can you teach your homeowner to keep their machine, their ride, in pristine shape for years? Stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know it. And yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Tuesday, January 6th of 2026. So what are a few things that we can do as a shop, or what are a few things you can do if you're a homeowner to keep your machine and have it last for years? And let's start off with the most obvious that gets overlooked, and that is read your owner's manual from front to back. All right? That's going to tell you when you should be servicing it, when you should be greasing it, it's all in your owner's manual. And it also has a section that most people don't read that says troubleshooting your small engine. And that means if you're having problems, this is what they recommend you look for. And a lot of times the issue is there, right? The reason that my customers bring it to me is because they don't want to have to deal with it, right? Simple. But for you guys that want to deal with it yourself, or if you're a shop owner talking to your customer about ways to keep that machine nice, the first thing is read your owner's manual. There's a wealth of information in there. They try to answer every question that they've had over the past few years. And it gets you to know your machine. You know, it's like when I bought the newer Ford tractor. Everything was different on it. You know, the four-wheel drive is electric. My John Deere's electric, but I didn't know. So I sat down and I went through the owner's manual, which was in a binder. That's how thick it was. And I had a couple problems, and I looked up troubleshooting to see what it was. And in the one case is it wouldn't go into gear. And it's got a safety feature in it that if you don't depress the clutch all the way down because it's a 16 speed, but it's got the forward and reverse on the lever that you can go in either gear, in any of the gears. And if you don't have the clutch all the way down, when you push that into forward or reverse, you get a CP warning that flashes. And I'm like, what the heck is this? It says it right in the manual. It says that if you don't press the clutch fully before you go from neutral to reverse or forward, you're going to get this and it won't go into gear. It'll just stay there like it was never meant to be put into a gear. And all you got to do is just simply put it back in neutral, push the clutch all the way to the floor, put it into gear, voila, fixes the problem. So 95% of the issues that you might have is already in that book. So taking the time to read it is a must. And I'm guilty of it sometimes too. I get an owner's manual and I toss it in the corner and I try to figure it out using common sense. And sometimes common sense isn't going to figure it out for you. So what's the next thing? Is regular services. That's a must. And, my customers bring it to me once a year, no matter how many hours they put on it. Most recommend around 25, 30 hours. And an hour is quite a bit on a machine. They do have hour meters on them, so you can keep track of how many hours in between oil changes. And so regular maintenance is a must. The other thing is on a daily basis, like with your lawnmowers, just simply blowing off the deck. everybody has an air compressor of some sort. Get a wand on it that's got a trigger, and then just blow everything all off or wash it all off with a garden hose. Get it cleaned up after every use. That way you're not getting grass built up to cover up the deck to where it starts to rust. And it will peel that paint right up, guys, if you let it sit there for extended periods of time. Snowblowers, I recommend that you bring them inside where it's heated. And if you can't do that, make sure you let the auger run and get clear of everything in that system before you shut it off. And the first thing you need to do when you go to use it is check those augers to see if they're froze. Don't just start it and then hit the auger drive to see if it'll move. Try moving it with your hands a little bit to break it free. We just had a guy, he used his snowblower and he forgot to clean everything out. And he backed it into his building. It's unheated. And what happened was it all froze because you're creating heat too, right? When you're snowblowing. But if you're in that kind of heavy crap, it's even more paramount that you clean it out. And don't stick your hands in there. Most snowblowers come with a tool that most people throw away. It's a plastic handle so that you're not sticking your hand in there. Use the tool. The tool you can replace, your arm you can't. But he didn't get it cleaned out enough, so what ended up happening was he went out the next day to use it and it was froze tighter than Toby's. And he engaged the auger drive and he said all he could see was smoke coming. He smoked the belt enough so it wore it right in half. And it was all because the front augers were froze. So if you got a heated place to get them in, that's ideal in between using it. If you don't, make sure it's all cleaned out and there's no snow or whatever built up on the impeller or on any of the front parts. If it's packed right full of snow, you didn't clear it. So what else can we look at? You should also be taking and looking at your machine front to back just to see if there's anything that is broke or wore or needs attention. You know, if you got a steering piece that's bent, take the time to take it off and get it straightened and aligned the way it should or replace it. But regular inspections, you'd be surprised if you do it on a regular basis. If there's something out of whack, you'll see it. Your first few times, you're just trying to imprint in your head of how things look, right? But as you go and you get more used to your machine, you're going to be listening for noises and doing a visual inspection on that machine to see if there's anything that needs attention. And if there is, if it's above your pay grade, get it to a repair shop. If not, take care of it now instead of waiting and having it get worse. The biggest thing that, I was taught early on is grease is cheaper than parts. And that's so true. Because by the time you figure your parts and labor, it gets pretty expensive, doesn't it? A tube of grease will go a long ways. Keep your steering greased. There's should be Zert fittings on your mower deck. If you have a 3-blade system, on a 2-blade system, there's usually 2 grease fittings on it. Give them a couple shots now and again just to make sure there's grease in it. Check your hydrostatic transmission oil level. Check your engine oil every morning or every day before you go to use it. Not every day, but if you're mowing the yard, check it before you mow the yard. And then before you mow it the next time, check it. Hydrostatic transmission, you should be checking that on a regular basis. If you find that it's not turning over as fast as it used to, then we need to do a voltage check on the battery and do a battery alternator check to see if there's actually enough volts coming back, amps coming back, to charge that battery. And it should be around 13 to 14. You can buy the Harbor Freight cheap battery tester, and it also is a great thing to test your system to see if it's charging as well. Put it on when it's not running. It should be reading 12 up in the green. Start it up. You should watch it climb until it gets to around 13, 13 and a half. And as it gets charged, it'll start dropping back to the 12 volt. The system is made to make current when the battery needs it, okay? Connections on the battery. Check those regular and make sure you don't get any corrosion or anything on it, because that would cause the alternator not to be able to charge the battery back if you're not getting a good contact on the battery. So taking them apart and cleaning them every year is a good thing, and getting it down so it's aluminum to aluminum and or lead to lead, whatever it is. But I don't know how many machines we watch come through the door that are just corroded right up over the tops of them. And it takes a while to get everything tore down, cleaned up, and then usually the battery cable end we usually toss. I get them by the 12 packs. So we use them a lot through the shop. Clean the posts on the battery, clean the posts on your handles. Make sure everything's got a good contact. Make sure it's all snug so it's good and tight. Make sure that there's usually a rubber strap or it's a metal U-shaped with nuts on the bottom. Make sure that is secure so it's holding your battery secure, so it's not being bounced around in the machine, and where it'll start loosening things up. Or I've seen it enough so it jumped that it actually broke a wire going to the positive and it shut everything down. And it was just simply the battery, the rubber strap was missing. We used to sell a ton of those because people would set them down and change their battery out, and then they couldn't find it, so they'd order one from me. I think I've got 6 or 7 of them left if you need one. So that's another thing you can do as a homeowner. Battery life. Batteries this day and age are not lasting a long time. If you get a year out of it, consider yourself lucky. Are there still ones out there that are getting 3 and 4 years out of them? Yes. Be conscious when you're buying a battery. It will have the year stamped on it when it was produced. So the last thing you want to be doing is buying a 23 instead of a 26. It's got an orange tag and it says 23, 24, 25. That's the year that it was brought in. So if they've got old batteries sitting there, the life of that battery will be less, even though there's nothing had drawn on it. It's still brand new. If you go for the 25 or 26, you should be golden for at least a couple of years. You know, at least once a year, unless you start having a problem, spark plug. I know you, Jason, that you recommend the spark plugs will last some plugs have last 15, 20 years. For the cost of the spark plug, I get it. I put it into the service. So when you get a service from me, you're getting an oil filter, fuel filter, spark plug, and the air filter will wash out or blow out if we can. If not, you get a new one of those every year. Even if I think the spark plug looks good, if I think the fuel filter has got a lot of dirt, it's just, this is what's built into the service that we provide at our shop. It's automatic. You don't need to ask for new plugs, new fuel filter, new oil filter. You know, it's all included in the list and all at a decent price. Because the last thing that I want is redos. And I've seen plugs break down after a year. You know, so if you send it home and then the customer starts having problems where it's not firing right, ends up being a plug. You've had to go back, get it, bring it back to the shop, put the plugs in it. Voila. You solve the big mystery, but in the end, it costs you money because you've had to do an extra trip to go pick it up or bring it back to the shop and take it back to them again. It kind of has mud on your face because the machine didn't have a carefree summer. It had a spark plug breakdown or a fuel filter plug up. You know, to me, that's what preventative is for, I think the cost outweighs anything else as far as why I do it that way. It's cost prohibitive. It keeps you from having major problems down the road, right? And then lastly, as a homeowner or a shop talking to a homeowner, is their fuel storage and how long to keep the fuel. That's a biggie. You know, I was saying yesterday on the video, a month, 2 months tops. You're pushing it. And the only thing that I've found out there that has any value, and I've tried Stable, I got the whole gauntlet of the different ones that we've tried over the years. Enough so I just give up on them. And the bulk of them out there, all they're doing is they're providing a film on top of the gas, all right? Kind of like having a seal. And it keeps the air from getting in contact with the ethanol fuel to create condensation, to create water. The only one that I found that you actually it mixes in with the fuel and it helps burn the fuel is PRI-G. That's the only one we've ever had that I can actually say that is working. That we don't have problems with our treated fuel. And we can keep it 2 to 3 months out in a 5-gallon can and have it just as fresh as it was the day we bought it. And that's hard to say about too many products, right? It doesn't take a lot of it. You can get that right on Amazon in the small bottles. I bought the big bottle for the shop. It mixes to 512 gallons of fuel. But taking care of your fuel, and then at the end of the year, making sure that you run the carburetor clean, shut the fuel off if you got a snowblower, generator, lawnmower, let it run out completely out of the fuel filter and the carburetor and have it shut off at the tank. In the comments, what are the things you think I missed that I should be telling you? And are there things here that you really don't want to know? I gotta ask, right? Most people that I talk to would rather bring it to me and have us do a service on it every year than have to deal with it. We're quick, we're reasonable priced, and we do a good job. And people like helping us, and that's what people are doing. If they're coming to you and giving you business, they're helping you. And you should always look at it that way, in that frame of mind of that customer doesn't have to bring their products to you, their machines to you to get fixed. They're doing it because they like you. Or they've run out of shops that are willing to work on it for them. On that note, I have cardiac rehab today. You guys have a great Tuesday, and we'll catch you here bright and early tomorrow morning. Let me know in the comments what I missed. And what are things that you'd like to see brought up on the channel that I'll answer as honestly as I can. So on that note, enjoy your Tuesday.